This episode is sponsored by no one. Insert your company name here. If you would have an interest in becoming a sponsor of the Golf Guru Show, please send me a proposal email to golfgurushow@gmail.com and I will review it. I am looking for company sponsors that share the same passion for success, continuous learning genes, and sharing qualities that I have and would love to partner with a company with these values. If you want to be a part of this project, feel free to contact me today.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. But like a miniature Buddha covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Welcome to the program.
What's up, all you hack and teaching pros? Welcome to another episode of the Golf Guru Show. I am your humble and grateful host, Jason Sutton, and I am the guru. I can't believe this is episode 63 of the podcast in just a short year that I've been doing this show. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for the continued support. Before I get to our guest, make sure you subscribe and hit download, and don't be afraid to share with your friends on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook as this train keeps on rolling. The momentum is real, and I'm excited to see where this season takes us. On this episode, I have my longtime student, Mr. Henry Shimp. Henry is a member of the Stanford University golf team, which, as you know, just won the 2019 National Championship by defeating the Texas Longhorns in a very exciting match where Henry won the deciding point to help bring his Stanford Cardinal squad to victory. This was especially cool for me, as I've been coaching Henry since he was about 10 or 11 years old, so I couldn't be prouder to see all of his hard work pay off and watch Henry reach the pinnacle of college golf by winning the national championship with his team. This was such a fun conversation as we get into hearing Henry's perspective on the week at the NCAA championships, as well as we dive into a variety of topics that will help all of you juniors out there that want to play college golf, such as the recruiting process and his perspective on that as he went through it, as well as what it is like to be a D1 athlete, the challenges and the good things about it as well. Henry also shares some really great advice to the juniors and how to navigate that process of preparing to play at the next level. This was a really fun episode, as I have some help co-hosting by one of my students and Henry's good friend, professional golfer Austin Morrison, who also shares some great insight and asks some questions. And he's been on the podcast before, so if you want to look back at his episode, that was a really good one as well, as we dive into the challenges that Henry faced during the tournament, from how to handle nerves, how to trust your game, as well as much, much more that I think you're going to take from this young man, that you will find very quickly why Henry has been so successful, from his work ethic to his extremely high IQ, as far as high golf IQ as well, that I've been very fortunate to have a very small part in and be a witness and sort of a guide to his career that is just going to continue to grow and to continue to get better. So without further delay, I bring you my conversation with Mr. Henry Shimp. Enjoy. All right, Henry, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jason. Excited to be here.
Yeah, it's cool that you're going to be on the show just after a big week that we had last week with Natty, and I'm excited to kind of take us through that and get some perspective from a member of the national championship, Stanford Cardinal.
Yeah, for sure.
How's it feel?
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's something that kind of takes a while to set in. Golf is one of those sports that it's just so hard to win it. I mean, you have to get through 3 rounds of stroke play, then another round of stroke play, then 3 rounds of match play, regionals before all of that. And so it feels like there are 10 or 15 different hurdles you have to get over through the season just to have any sort of chance at it. And so, when the final putt actually drops, it's like just another tournament, just another round. But to have it actually culminate in a national championship is really, really cool.
What was really cool was you were the deciding point.
Yeah.
And you didn't even know it. at first, did you?
So I knew that my match was going to be the one that mattered because our two seniors who just played so well the whole tournament, the whole spring, I mean, the credit really should go to them. But I knew that they had their matches in good spots. They were both maybe 2 or 3 or 4 up with a few holes to go, and they weren't going to lose those. So I knew that if I won, that we were going to get it. But when I actually did win, I didn't know that that was it. It was said and done. But when I did find out, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, we could tell once I think one of your teammates or one of the coaches came over and told you, and the whole demeanor changed. Like, oh, like holy cow!
Yeah.
Actually, was the last point and it's over.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to ask my assistant coach who was walking with me if their matches were over or not yet. I knew that one of them was, but the other one I wasn't totally sure on. But I kind of decided to just, keep playing golf.
Yeah, you didn't want to jinx it, right?
Yeah, because I did know that it was gonna be ours if I ended up winning my match. Just didn't know in the moment that it was totally done.
For sure. So, and I want to get into some of the details of that match because I thought it was interesting. But before we do that, take us back to the beginning of the week. Like, I think for college players, and we're going to talk a lot about some different topics today, junior golf and whatnot, and your rise through that ranks as well. But take us through the week, like when you get there, like the preparation, like what's the team vibe? I mean, give us some lineage, I guess, of the week.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess in terms of preparation, our coaches were pretty hands-off going into the tournament. We've really struggled actually for the last 4 or 5 years. I don't know if you've ever seen our results, but
oh yeah,
we've been one of the top-ranked teams going into nationals every year and haven't done anything good. I have had some pretty embarrassing tournaments. I haven't been a part of those, but I mean, our team was kind of nervous about nationals because we knew we had another good chance. We'd won 4 times in a row.
Right.
But our coaches and the guys on the team were all just like, how do we get over this hump of struggling at nationals? And so our coaches just really left it on us to try to prepare and get our games in good shape, be really rested. And so I think we all did a good job of that and showed up to the tournament really ready to go. And yeah, when we got to Arkansas, our girls team was just leaving. They unfortunately lost in a really tight match in the quarterfinals. But it was cool to be able to see them, and throughout the week we were able to talk to them a bit about the course. They told us a few of the things that we needed to be thinking about to prepare for it. And so that was cool to be able to kind of live vicariously through them. And then, the practice round at nationals is known to be just like the worst round of golf ever. You have 30 teams out there, 6 guys on each team, because there's a sub now for each team.
Right.
And it takes a good 7 hours or so on a long, hard course. And you only get that one shot to learn it. And so you really need to focus and take every shot seriously. But, I mean, it's just the start of what's, total grinder of a week.
Because you guys came in, and just to give them some context coming in, like you said, you guys had a kind of a rough fall, right? But then in the spring, you guys got hot.
Yeah.
Won like 4 tournaments in a row.
Right.
Like, what do you think happened there? Was it just purely momentum, or did something switch, or was it preparation? Or
I would say there were 3 things kind of that happened. One was we just flat out worked really hard. I mean, we had early morning practices when it wasn't warm and it was not fun to be out there. We were doing a lot of workouts, one of which each week was with our new assistant coach who was a Marine for 10 years, actually.
Oh, wow.
And so he just came to us from the Marines, and on Friday mornings he would run us through these hour-long like Marine-style boot camp workouts where we would run and do like box jumps and burpees and all that. I mean, it was so much harder than anything you would do with a strength trainer. But I really think that all of that stuff, whether or not it really made us better or not, I think it made a lot of luck for us because we were outworking pretty much every team in the country, I'm pretty sure. And so I know that had a big part to do with it. I think the second thing is we were able to hone in on our lineup because in the fall, and this is kind of the natural way that a college season is going to go, but you have a lot of young players come in, guys who are freshmen, sophomores who haven't played a whole lot, and the coaches want to get them in and kind of see what they've got. But after 3 or 4 or 5 tournaments, you start to kind of weed guys out a little bit, and just based on scores, you can kind of tell who's going to be part of your lineup going forward.
Right.
And so it actually occurred to me the other day when we did finally come to our 5-man lineup that we took to nationals. We never lost with that lineup, starting in our home tournament at the Goodwin. And so I think getting the proper 5 guys out there was a big part of it. And then we also kind of on top of both of those, we just started playing better. I mean, our 2 seniors are both super highly ranked players. They have very, very gaudy and long playing resumes, and they just weren't playing their best golf for the first few tournaments of the year. They were fighting a little swing stuff, a little confidence, and then all of a sudden they both started to post some good rounds. And I think for our last 5 tournaments, they had like 3 wins and maybe 1 finish outside the top 10.
Yeah, was that Celinda? He
won.
Crazy.
He won a couple times.
Yeah.
Wu won once,
Yeah.
and I mean their worst finish was 11th place. Basically, they were both in the top 5 or 10
insane.
every week, and so obviously, I mean, when you know every round you're going to have 2 guys pretty much who are under par, sometimes significantly, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, so confidence was definitely high coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, once we started to get that confidence, we just kind of kept riding it. We weren't cocky about it, I don't think, but maybe behind the scenes a little bit.
Yeah.
But winning is, as people say, it's pretty contagious. I mean, once we started to get a taste of it, you just want to work harder and keep winning, and it just kind of kept happening. Even a few weeks where we would get off to a slow start or have a bad 9 holes here or there, all of a sudden we would just kind of turn a switch a little bit and start playing really well. So it was a really cool spring.
So take us through the medal play, because, I mean, you played really good first couple of days.
Yeah.
And some of the people you got to play with, you played with Matty Wolf,
Yeah.
which was a pretty cool. We were texting during that and after that tournament or after that round.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about how that went, and because I think you guys struggled a little bit the last day and gave us a bit of a scare.
Yeah.
So take us through that.
Yeah. So in the stroke play, kind of like I was saying, we'd been so nervous going into it because we've struggled the last few years. And it was on like the 12th hole, my first round. I was playing pretty solid. I was probably like 1 over par or something, but the course is so hard. That was pretty good. And our assistant coach, Matt, was walking with me. And he likes to kind of check scores and oftentimes will report to me. But he was like, would you like to know how you guys are doing right now? And I was like, I don't really care. Well, I care, but I don't really care to know.
Stick with
I'm
your
just
game.
going to stick to it. He goes,
Yeah.
all right, cool, we're leading. And I was like, okay.
So he tells you anyway.
Yeah. I knew if he asked me that he wasn't going to say, well, we're actually in last place. So I figured that we were doing well. But, yeah, so it was cool for once to actually know that in Nationals we were off to a good start. But, yeah, I mean, Wu didn't play that great in stroke play. He said his game was solid, but he just wasn't quite posting the numbers that he had been. But I don't think he lost any confidence in his game. And then we had good contribution from some other guys. And so we were in a really solid spot going into the last round. I think we were in 2nd place. We weren't going to contend for first. I mean, Oklahoma State was way ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
But we were really just playing for seeding at that point. And
Sure.
then, as you alluded to, we did have a tough last round. I mean, the course, it got so difficult. It was the windiest day. They tucked the pins, and they really let the greens get firm and fast. And so that's no excuse for us taking 2 80s and an 81 or whatever we did. But it was really difficult. I mean, that final round, I was paired with Cole Hammer and Austin Eckroat, 2 really good players. Right. And I think in my group we had like a 78, a 79, and an 80 or something.
Wow.
So it was just a difficult day to play. But, honestly, I think having that bad last round ended up being a blessing in disguise, because we fell all the way to the 6th seed. But in doing that, we were on the opposite side of the bracket from Oklahoma State. And, I mean, clearly you don't want to see them too early because everyone knows how good they are.
Right.
And just the way that some of our matchups fell, I think, ended up being pretty fortuitous, whereas if we had been in the 4 or the 5 seed, it would not have set up quite so well.
Yeah.
So, sometimes those little lucky breaks are what it takes to win.
So talk about the match play. How did you flip it? Now you're one-on-one.
Yeah.
The mentality, talk to us a little bit about behind the scenes, like going into match play. Did you guys have a little team meeting, or was there a
we talked about it a bit of just like who wanted to play who, and coach just kind of asked us straight up. He knew that there were a couple guys he wanted to maybe lead us off, and I was one of them. And I kind of told him that I'd be happy to do that. I wanted to go out and try to get us off to a good start.
Right.
And so that was the only thing that was really set going into the matches, that I was probably going to lead us off. But from there, I think what Coach Ray did better than the other coaches is he was just looking for matchups. The other coaches knew they wanted to just play guys in a certain
Same order, right? Yeah,
and so, I won't really name any specifics, but basically in match play, you kind of want your top guy or you want your bottom guy to play their top guy because you're just going to kind of concede that point.
Right.
But there were a couple scenarios in match play where we would put a player on the board first, and it may happen to be one of our better players, and then the other team would rebut with one of their best players.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little bit of a coaching error.
Sure.
And so that
Makes
was something
sense.
that's something that Coach Ray did better than the other coaches this week, in my opinion, or this past week, is that he was really seeking matchups that he could win rather than just having a 1 to 5 order and going through it that way. But yeah, I mean, that was pretty much our mentality, is we were just going to look for the best matchups other than me going out first, and then just see where we could go from there.
So take us through the last match, because I think that's the thing everybody wants to know is like, how nervous were you? Like, what was your mindset?
Mm-hmm.
How did you flipped it? Because I mean, you got off to wouldn't say a poor start. Your guy was pretty hot.
Yeah.
So you were down 2 or 3 early.
2 down through
2 down
6.
early, and then
Yeah.
you flipped the match.
Yeah. I was never that nervous the whole week. I don't know what it was. The first tee shot was like super hard. I mean, trouble on both sides, but for whatever reason, I just stepped up on the tee each day and just felt really relaxed and ready to go. But I did feel a little extra pressure coming into that last match because I didn't win either of my matches the first day.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know, people were kind of texting me like, come on, man, go win one tomorrow. And I was like, well, I drew 2 really good players, and other than faltering on the 18th hole in the first match, I played really well, actually. I drew a couple guys who played really well. I mean, in the second match against John Augenstein, he's A, great player, and B, known to kind of be a match play bulldog. Mm-hmm. In the last 10 holes, I was like 1 down going into the last 10, and I made like 5 birdies, but he just wouldn't go away.
Wow.
I mean, there were a couple holes in particular that off the tee, it looked like I had to just be way in the driver's seat, and he would pull some 4-iron out of the rough and hit it to like 10 feet, just things like that. And so I didn't let my confidence falter at all. But I did know just kind of how the match is set up, that I figured Isaiah was going to have maybe a 50-50 chance of winning against Cole Hammer just because Cole's so good.
Yeah.
I figured Brandon Wu was going to win.
He had a little bit of a hangover maybe from beating Wolf.
Yeah.
That was such a big match for him. He was on fire.
Kinda
So
lay it all out there.
Yep.
But then our last 2 matches I knew were going to be really difficult with David and Dahlett. I knew Dahlett was struggling a little bit, and David drew a really solid player in Steven Schiavone. And so I felt like even just going into it, I thought my match could very well be the one that was really important. And so, yeah, as you said, the first 6 holes, there are a couple hard ones. I mean, the first hole's difficult, the third hole's pretty hard, but there are also a couple shorter par 5s that you can get after, and they don't necessarily lend themselves to better ball strikers. But pretty much once you hit the 7th hole, I mean, every shot on the course is just really hard. I mean, you have to be able to hit really good long irons, drive it straight. And so I knew at that point it would play to my favor, and that I could bring it back.
Yeah,
And
you were
so,
driving it so well.
Yeah, and so I really didn't let myself. I mean, I was a little frustrated. I kind of caught a bad break on the 6th hole. I was in a divot going into the green, and so I was a little frustrated about that. But I didn't let myself lose any confidence or anything, because I knew that was the part of the course that I could really start to jump on him. And yeah, I guess I won 4 of the next 6, something like that.
Right.
I went 2 up through 12. 3 putted the 13th, which, I mean, a little frustrating, but that was one of the greens on the course that was just really, really difficult.
Mm-hmm. Looked like it.
You're going to have some 3 putts out there. And then, the last few holes, barring one chip, I played pretty solid.
I think, we're joined by Austin Morrison. I think he had a question about the chip on 15.
Yeah, go for it. I'd love to talk about it.
No, sorry, I won't do that to you. Okay. I'll be respectful for once.
Yeah, so because you were perfect position, like what was the mindset there, and then how did you? I think more importantly is how did you recover from it?
Yeah,
is what I was so proud to see you do.
Yeah. I mean, looking back on that particular shot, I wish I had played it a little differently. It was kind of one of those awkward 50-yarders where you have 45 yards of green to work with.
Right, I was going to say it's such a long green.
Yeah, so I don't think I did a very good job of picking a landing point, and probably didn't pick the best club. And I just hit a bad shot. I mean, you could hit some bad
Yeah,
shots.
no kidding.
It was kind of magnified by there being a hazard behind it. But, hit a bad shot. Pretty much knew once I hit it I was going to lose the hole.
Right.
And so I just mentally, I guess I had a chance to chip in, but once that didn't go in, I was just kind of moving on to 16
Right.
and figuring
You're just
out what I
thinking,
needed to do.
exactly.
I was still one up. But, the thing that I did well, I told myself after that hole, you don't need to go charge off to the next tee and get out of the rhythm or anything. And it's one pitch shot. I haven't really made a bad full swing in probably 12 holes now. So there's no reason to let one shot like that carry over into the rest of your game. I'd been driving it great, and so I just stepped up and took a good target and swung really hard at that ball in 16.
Yeah.
Definitely a little bit of anger out there, but I hit a good one. And just kind of stayed confident in my game because I wasn't going to have to chip again. So,
Right, there you go.
Not that I would have let it kill my confidence there either.
So talk about the approach shot on 16, because I think that's what really turned the match and flipped the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so between my tee shot on 16 and my second shot that's when I could tell that it was totally for sure going to come down to my match.
Right.
Because, our group had a decent following just from, people walking along and camera people, the Golf Channel, whatever. But all of a sudden when I was walking to my ball on 16, it was like everyone had kind of converged.
Like you're leading the tournament.
Yeah, so once I got up to that ball, I was like, all right, now it starts to matter. But yeah, it was a pretty straightforward shot, and I'd driven it in that position. We played that course 8 times over the week, and so I'd driven it in that position multiple times before, and I had 151, and it set up well for just kind of a little knockdown 9-iron. The wind was a little bit off the left. And so I was trying to just draw it against the wind, and I had a little bank to the left of the hole. So it felt pretty easy. And I just wanted to make an aggressive swing at it, and, I hit a really good one. So
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't find that to be a very nerve-wracking shot because I felt like the worst I was going to do was hit it to 25 feet. And in that case, you're one up going into 17.
Yeah, and your opponent was starting to show some signs of nerves as well.
Yeah, he hit a really good shot there into 16 rather, but the spot he was putting from, it was very unlikely he was going to make
Right.
3. So I really just wanted to try to hit a solid shot there and give myself a putt to beat him on that one. But it was nice to give myself a putt from 2.5 or
Kick
3
in.
feet. And
Yeah.
one that you should not miss very much.
Yeah, I think as good as that swing was, I thought the swing on 17 was probably even better.
Yeah.
Because, that looked like just a really hard golf shot.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you recognizing that because that's what I've said to people is, the one on 16, it was a cool shot. It ended up close, but 17 is the one I'm really proud of because at that point I'm 2 up with 2 to play, and that's a swing where I'm like, okay, if I can make one good swing here, we're going to win this thing. And you have hazard left, and the bunkers on the right were no good. And it was like,
there's no bell out there at all.
They're just, you kind of have to just step up there and hit a really good shot. And that was the first time I actually got pretty nervous. I was standing over that one, and hands were shaking a little bit because, as I said, I felt like I was one swing at that point from being able to pretty much put the thing on ice.
So what was the number and what was the club?
It was 206, and I took 6
iron. Yeah, I was thinking that goes.
The greens were pretty firm, so I think we were talking about landing it a little short of 200, and then
it got
trying
by
to
the hole
let
too.
it release. Yeah, I definitely had a little bit of adrenaline going, and I hit it really well. But I just tried to commit to a really, really specific shot there. That was kind of my trigger all week going into shots is don't make a desperate golf swing. I think people do that a lot when their nerves involved is, you'll pick a shot and you really just want it to be over with, and so you'll make a quick swing.
Right.
You don't really think about, okay, how do I need to move this club to hit the exact shot I want to? And so that one, I was
What was the shot shape?
So I was looking right at the flag and then just trying to hit a little draw into the middle of the green, and then the wind was coming a little off the left.
Kind of held it out there a little bit.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to hit a mid-flight draw to the middle of the green, and then let the wind work it back a little. And despite the shaky hands and nerves, I hit a really good one there. So
that's awesome.
That's the one that I'll probably carry forward with me because I was able to execute under pressure there and overcome a little bit of nerves.
I was like, I couldn't have been prouder because, I mean, you know, I've known you and we've worked together since you were 10. And it's almost not real. Like watching you on TV and watching you realize your dreams and all the hard work that you've put in over the years is starting to pay off. Yeah. So I just can't be prouder.
Thank you.
To be a part of that. So take us back a little bit, because I always say success is not without adversity. So you go to Stanford. So first, talk about, before I get into that question, talk about like why Stanford, because I know you were getting recruited. I think you had Wake, you had UNC, you had Virginia, you had Duke, and it came down to, I guess, was Duke and Stanford. Talk a little bit about that process.
Yeah. So I mean, I looked at a bunch of schools pretty close to home that I was pretty familiar with, and then this school out on the West Coast that Stanford was the one that came in to the process last, actually. I mean, I never would have thought I had any chance to go there, but between my sophomore and junior year of high school, I did a few pretty decent things in golf and figured, okay, I'll at least reach out and just, see if there's any sort of interest.
Right.
And at that point, I'd talked to all those other 4 schools you mentioned and reached out to the coach at Stanford, and he was like, yeah, I'll come out for a visit. We'd be excited to have you. And I didn't really think he was serious. I thought he was just kind of being nice to me, but I went out there and liked it pretty well at first, and then decided to go back on another visit.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember you going a couple of times.
Yeah, I
pretty
went
quick.
A couple months later, and really pretty much decided at that point that that's where I wanted to go. I felt like it was an opportunity that you can't really turn down.
For sure.
The people that surround our program from a golf and business standpoint is pretty amazing, and so it was an opportunity that I felt like I really had to go for. And I struggled a little bit at first to kind of wrap my mind around the fact that I was going to go to school all the way out in California. But it's a decision that I'm so happy with.
You're not regretting it now,
I
right?
don't regret it at all.
I'm just going to drive to Stanford.
Yeah. So what I was getting at before was, I mean, you go in, and I was really excited because you made the travel team pretty quick, and then decided to, I guess, buy a bicycle to go to class, and had a little accident. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I played in our first couple events there, and my game felt pretty good at the time, and then I broke my wrist and wasn't able to play for 6 or 8 months.
Yeah, that was pretty traumatic, I would guess, right?
I mean, at the time it wasn't fun at all. I mean, no one wants to do that. But I think looking back on it, it's turned out to be really good, because despite my game being really solid going in, there were some things I needed to work on, kind of coming off of a full summer of competing. Felt like my swing had gone out of whack a little bit, so I was able to kind of tidy things up, and I got back at the beginning of my sophomore year, despite not having played in quite a while, a better player, and I think that showed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I started to have some rounds that I wouldn't have been able to shoot my freshman year, even if I had been able to play the whole way through. And so, I mean, that freshman year was tough. I mean, I never would have envisioned being there for almost a full year without playing any golf. But I learned a lot and came back a better player. And
so what did you do during that time? Like, was there any daily habits or rituals that you had to be just like chomping at the bit, just missing the game?
Yeah,
maybe it made you hungrier. I don't know.
I tried to stay really close to the guys on the team, which I did, and be a good teammate. But a lot of the time that would entail just going out and like hanging out when they were practicing, which is
not hard.
Yeah, it's not very fun.
Right.
I mean, no other way to put it than that it's not very fun after a while to just kind of go watch people play golf when that's really what you want to be doing.
All right, moving on. Sore subject, but I mean, I thought it showed. Yeah, it is important because it showed your character and your passion for the game, and like I said, sometimes our failures tend to help us to get over the hump and come out to be successes. All right, so let's talk a little bit about junior golf. So take us through your career and like when you got into the game, because like I said, we met when you were like 10 or 11. You're already playing at a reasonably high level for your age. and then we'll sort of help some of the listeners out there. There's a lot of junior golfers and a lot of college players that listen to the show. Take us back to the beginning. Like, what drew you to the game, and then what are you doing?
Told him to give a Myers Park shout out.
Oh, okay. Well, you can chime in there, man.
Yeah.
You got the mic. Do you have any questions before we get started? Before we move back, because we're kind of backtracking a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, my only real question.
Horrible host.
My only real question when you go back to looking at kind of college golf versus high school golf and all that before you get back to junior golf is, you and I were high school teammates together, and we had like a team that got along very well, and like we all want each other to improve, and we all had the same goal in mind. Compared to my experience in college was not as much that. It's not that we didn't get along, it's that we weren't always on the same page with what we wanted to do. Do you feel like at Stanford, like having that camaraderie and having guys that are really all pushing towards the same goal, do you think that's one of the reasons you all were so successful? Because I personally believe that's one of the reasons why in high school we were so successful.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say that was probably the biggest difference. It's a really good question, by the way, but probably the biggest difference between our team this year and then my first couple years is every year we all have the same goal. Everyone's really competitive at Stanford. We all want to win tournaments and try to win the national championship at the end of the year. But you'll have, some different guys for sure, and I think any team is going to have that. But this year in particular, if you look at kind of the core of our lineup being Isaiah, Brandon, and then myself, we all live together actually, and so we do everything together.
Yeah, that has to help.
I hate to say we did everything together. The year's almost over now. But yeah, living together and eating all our meals together, hanging out, driving to workouts together in the morning. We were
with a car, not a bike, hopefully.
Exactly. Yeah. In a lot of regards, we were forced to be very much aligned in just what we were doing in day-to-day life, and so
was that the coach's decision, or is that just you guys kind of got along and you made the decision who you stay with, or was that
so we had talked
some master plan by Coach Ray to go, you guys are going to figure out?
I'll give him some credit. We talked about it. So we have another senior on the team who lived with us as well, Chris Myers, who he was at Nationals. He was there supporting. He's one of the first guys that came in on 17 green. And so Chris, Isaiah, and Brandon had lived together their sophomore and junior years. And I was pretty close with them my sophomore year, and we had started to talk about living together a little bit. But I had another couple ideas that I was thinking about. But then Coach Ray did step in and kind of had this master plan, as you say, that if we can get these guys together and really have them be a core group of the team from kind of a leadership and a social standpoint, then that could be really strong. And I will say that I think he nailed it there.
Smart.
That's crazy.
In his mind, for better or for worse, our room ended up becoming a spot where a lot of the other guys on the team would hang out. And whether or not he approved of everything that would go on all the time, I think without a doubt, having the freshmen want to come hang out with some of the older guys on the team, and some of the sophomores and juniors as well, made for a really strong team bond.
And he's kind of putting the three of y'all not in charge per se, but you guys set the tone for everybody else.
Right. And so, I did really feel like pretty much top to bottom on the team, everyone enjoyed hanging out together and kind of had the same goals, and we were definitely the closest team I've been on. And then I think another thing of that was really important is, we started off the season so slowly, but we really didn't change anything off the course at all. I think it's easy if the results are really bad to say, all right, we can't be doing this, we can't be doing that, we got to just do nothing but grind on golf. And we never changed our approach to golf in general. We didn't let ourselves get too discouraged or anything like that. We just kind of stuck to it and waited for the results to come, and once they did, they started coming in pretty hot. So
you feel like you got a decent balance? I think that's a question a lot of, my son just came into the room. Question, when you go to college, you're a D1 athlete, you guys are so busy with workouts and school and class. Is there any time to have fun?
Yes.
At William and Mary?
That's
Yes.
that's the short answer. Yeah, no, you can certainly find time for it. I mean, it depends on the time of the year.
Sure.
At Stanford in particular, it depends on the quarter a lot. So for whatever reason, fall quarter, we only play for about half of it. So there are 5 weeks where, I mean, we're still practicing and doing everything, but to some degree we feel like we have a little bit of time off. But then in the winter, all of our trips are really long. We have to travel a lot. And people like to take really hard classes in the winter just because the weather's not as good. It's kind of a good time to be a little bit of a shutaway. So in that quarter, you don't really find all that much time for it. And then in the spring, people like to get out and enjoy the weather a little bit more and have a little bit more fun. So it depends on the time of year. But so yeah, the short answer is yes. Longer answer is, it is a challenge.
Still have to manage your time, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I mean, it's got to be the education part at Stanford's got to be just off the charts hard.
Yeah, you're putting a lot into that, and hopefully you're putting a lot into the golf or athletic side as well. But finding that balance is important, and I think whatever that balance is for you, once you find it, it's important to stick to it. And I think our team sticking to kind of the way we wanted to have our year go at Stanford is why we ended up having such a good one.
What do you think the hardest thing about being a D1 athlete is?
I think obviously managing the academics can be difficult. The time intensity of golf in particular is pretty hard. I mean, there are a lot of days where we might have a qualifying round that's 30 or 40 minutes away, and so you leave campus at noon and you're really not getting back until 9 or 9:30. So, I mean, there are times when it really does take a lot away from whatever time you could put into academics. But I think just finding, especially at a bigger school, finding the right recipe of how you're going to really manage your time with regard to all of these different things that you have at your disposal is difficult. And so what I mean by that is, you have athletic trainers and you have nutritionists and you have soft tissue specialists and just all these people that are there to help you, but you can't possibly find the time to work with every single person. They're tutors in all different parts of life. There are a lot of people there, but finding the right balance day to day of what's going to help you be the best golfer that you can be and the best student as well is what's hard. Some people, if they're going to put 5 hours into golf each day, it's probably just going to be 5 hours of hitting balls and putting. Some people may say, okay, I'm going to do 3 of that, and then there's 2 hours off the course that I can find that can help me be really successful. So, you only have so many hours, and figuring out how to spend them and figuring out how to be, really good with that time is hard. Because I especially look at some of the younger guys on our team.
I was going to say, how long did that take for you to sort of feel like you're in the flow?
Yeah, but I would say by the middle of my sophomore year, I felt pretty good because in some ways, at the beginning of my sophomore year, I felt like a freshman a little bit too. I mean, I had a lot of stuff buttoned up, but on the golf side, I hadn't been, because I had redshirted, I hadn't been traveling and figuring out how to handle that balance, and so I kind of needed that quarter as well to really bake that into the whole equation.
Because you got to take homework on the road, right?
Yeah.
You guys are probably having to study and do papers and whatnot, even when you're at tournaments, right?
Right. Yeah, no, you absolutely have to. And so learning how to manage that is hard. But, yeah, I mean, I look at some of the younger guys on our team, and our guys this year have done a good job. But learning how to balance all that, and I think, another big piece of it at a place like Stanford is how do you set your expectations? I mean, everyone comes in and thinks they're immediately going to be the guy who has a 69 scoring average and a 4.0, and I can guarantee you that's a sliding scale. You're not going to accomplish both of those things, and you just have to figure out what you value. I mean, you can have a 4.0, but you're probably going to have more like a 74 scoring average.
Your golf will suffer.
You can have a 69 scoring average, but you're probably going to have more like a 3.0.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit better.
Yeah.
But just kind of what you value, and then how pretty much you put your time into it is the difficult thing.
That's a great answer. Any other questions you got?
No, I mean, I completely agree with all of that. It's just more.
Because you went through the same thing when we were married, high academic.
Yeah, like
having to travel.
High academic, having to travel. We weren't the same level of program. So like hearing kind of the way, Conrad goes about his business and the way y'all go about your business is interesting to me, just to hear and find out. And, what separates, the elite programs versus everybody else in D1.
All right, so take us back. I know I got kind of sidetracked there, which I tend to do, but take us back to your junior golf days. Mm-hmm. You're starting to become a good player, 10, 11, 12. I know we were working together. How quickly were you thinking about college, or how quickly were you thinking about the recruiting process? Because it happens so early nowadays, right? Kids are committing in 8th grade and 7th grade, and it's crazy.
Yeah, probably around that time, 7th or 8th grade, is when I started to figure out that there is this thing called college golf, and you can go to school and do more than just be a student, which to me sounded pretty attractive. Sounded like a good way to maybe go to a school that academically I probably couldn't get to as well. And so, yeah, I would say around that time is when I started to think about it. And as a player, I certainly wasn't one of those guys that was going to commit anywhere at that age. I mean, I wasn't close to that good. But I started to show enough promise to where if I could improve at a nice rate, I could probably go to a pretty decent Division I school. And so going into my freshman year of high school, I was super excited about high school golf. I mean, Austin alluded to that earlier.
Yeah, because you guys had a great team.
We had a really good team, and so many people tell these people that I play with in college, they tell these horror stories of high school golf where they were out there shooting 68 every round, and the next best guy is shooting 95. But for me, it could not have been more different. I mean, I was pretty decent player my freshman year, and I was the 5th guy on my team. We had 4 seniors who all went to play D1 golf. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, that was a huge learning experience for me and helped me in so many ways and got me excited about not just golf but team golf, to be around such good players. And then, after that, it was really competitive as well. I mean, my sophomore year, I stepped into a little bit more of a leadership role on the team, but we competed with schools week in and week out that had similar level players who were going to go play in the ACC and SEC and really high-level D1 schools. So, I mean, I think that high school golf experience was really vital for me and just made me really excited about wanting to show up and compete in tournaments. But then obviously during the summer and the rest of the year, you're going to play some outside competition as well. Mm-hmm. And I probably had a little bit different approach than some people. I think the AJGA is a great way to go. No one's ever going to discount you for going that route, but just for whatever reason, it's not exactly what I did.
You didn't play a ton early on, right?
No, I played a handful of them, and they were really good tournaments. I enjoyed playing them, but I always stuck a little bit more to kind of some of the state juniors, and later in my high school career, I got into some amateur stuff. Just kind of some of the standalone invitational tournaments that are well thought of. I stuck to those a little bit more so than just kind of playing the full AJGA schedule. And just kind of had spotty success here and there, and by the time I was a sophomore or junior, I guess I ended up being a guy that coaches would come watch play, and they thought I showed some promise. So I think that it's an interesting time in high school golf when you're working so hard for so long to get the opportunity to go play in college. And then once that happens, you try to figure out, okay, well, now what do I work for?
Right.
How do I continue to get better to then be really good when I show up as a freshman? And part of Stanford's process is that you can't really apply. You can't fully commit there until after you've been accepted to the school.
Right, I remember that.
Which doesn't happen until after your junior year. And so at the time, it was a little bit annoying, but I'm really happy, actually, that that's the way it worked out, because, I mean, I had to really, run to the finish line, so to speak.
Yeah.
Both academically and athletically. I had to stay sharp all the way through.
And you had to string those other coaches along a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we were talking to Duke for a long time, and I knew you were going to go to Stanford when you waited so long, because I knew that process.
Yeah, but I was really happy that I had to kind of stick it out all the way through the beginning of my senior year, because by the time I'd finally committed to somewhere and decided where I was going, I only had a year or so to go. I mean, I feel bad for some guys who, they'll decide where they want to go in 8th or 9th grade, and then it's kind of like, okay, well, what's next? I've got like 4 years to play before I go to school, and they don't really know what they're working for exactly.
Sure. So take us back to when you first thought you were going to have a chance to play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what did the process look like? Because I'm trying to get my kids to send out emails to coaches. Like, how many emails? Like, we're talking to junior golfers here. Like, how often should they reach out? How many schools should they have in their net?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you want to just try to get a sense of, you might start with, okay, what region might I want to play in? How far from home am I looking at going? Academically, what types of schools am I thinking about? And once you start to pare down based on those different metrics, I would throw really a pretty wide net, because I mean, it's not very hard to say no to someone later, but if you reach out too late and they've already filled up, there's not a whole lot you can do. So as soon as you think it's reasonable to throw your name in the hat, I mean, you probably don't want to reach out to a bunch of people when you're 13 and you're shooting 85, because there's just not a whole lot to go off there. But once you feel like you're a reasonable college prospect, there's nothing wrong with emailing as many coaches as possible and just getting your name out there to them, because you'd be surprised at how much you can impress someone just by being able to write a nice email or something at age 14. I mean, that's something I hear from my coach a lot, is that he'll get emails from these kids from who knows where, and he doesn't care what the scores, what the numbers are. They'll be saying, I shot this and this and this in all these tournaments, and it's not really significant until you're a little bit older and he actually knows what the tournaments are and who you're playing against. But just that ability to reach out and show yourself well is something that's really important. And so that's something that can be done as young as you want and for as many schools as you want. So, yeah, I mean, I would always say focus in on the ones that you really care about, but do not at all be afraid to just throw a really wide net, because you don't know, what coaches you might end up really liking or what schools you might end up really liking. I mean, at the beginning of the process, they're just kind of a bunch of names that you've heard about, really.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, look everywhere.
Then how important is the phone call? Because I think that's huge. Like you said, getting to know the coach.
Yeah.
They want you to talk to them, right? So at one point, did you start calling coaches? Because I think, what is it? Did they change the rule now? It was September 1 junior year that they could actually call the kids.
Yeah, they've changed the rules up, and unfortunately, I don't necessarily know them. It used to be that maybe any time, but we'll just say once you're like a sophomore in high school, you personally can call the coach.
Right.
And if they pick up the phone, you can
talk to them.
You can talk about whatever you want, but they can't call you back.
Right.
Now, I don't know exactly how that works, but whenever it is, the phone calls are pretty important. And I mean, it's kind of the same thing of just being able to show yourself well and speak well, and not be nervous, ask the right kind of questions. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, talk about that. Like, what kind of questions would a kid ask?
I think you just want, whatever it may be, you want to be able to show that you have a lot of interest in the program, maybe that you've done a little bit of research.
Know some of the kids on the team, or their
maybe know
results,
some guys on the team.
Yeah.
Know a little bit about the school, maybe have a little bit on what you might be interested in academically, what you're working on golf-wise. I mean, something that varies a lot program to program is how they go about team practice and workouts and all those things, and qualifying. Yeah. Those are things that you, at least as you start to get older in high school, you should start to have a sense of maybe what kind of preferences you have on that. And so being able to ask a coach, hey, how do you run practice? How do you run qualifying? Those are all really valuable questions that show that you are someone that's very interested in college golf and that you're going to have the ability to be successful at it. And so basically just don't be the guy that when coach says, are there any questions, or do you have any questions for me, says, no, I think I'm good. That's
yeah.
I can
That's you, Austin.
I can promise you that guy. Spending a lot of time around college coaches now, I can promise you don't want that to be your answer.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really good advice.
Well, and I think that takes a lot of maturity and like knowing yourself and knowing what you want to ask those questions. Because I know when I was going through the process, I didn't know anything I wanted to ask or anything like that. And then all of a sudden, once I got to college, I'm like, well, dang, like there's 10, 20 things I wish I would have asked and just
Yeah.
had a better idea of.
Yeah, and I think it can be as simple as sitting down for 15 minutes before you might give someone a call and write down 3 or 4 things on a notebook. If you don't have to write down 20 questions, but just a few important ones, things that you actually care about, and just go from there.
So let's talk about a few of your highlights during your high school career. Some of the things that jumped out to me, which would say, I'm ready for the next level. You shot 29 in a high school match. Mm-hmm. I think you may have had a chance to shoot 28. I think you make a bogey and shoot 29 or something stupid.
I think I parred my last hole or
Maybe
something
yeah. So that was kind of interesting. And then you went back-to-back in the Carolinas junior.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, tell me if I'm wrong, you can speak on this, is I think one of your failures was probably one of your biggest. I think it was right before the second Carolinas AM, or you were in the Carolinas AM, you had the lead.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, because I think that was a big. I remember talking to you on the phone after that one, and you were pretty tore up. But I think it really helped you to spur on to the next victory.
Yeah. I won you said the back-to-back Carolinas juniors. I won
the junior
14 junior, and then I won the 15 junior as well. But before the 15 junior, I think it was the week before.
Yes.
Was the Carolinas amateur, and I led through 3 rounds, and then had like a pretty decent front 9 the last day. I shot like 1 or 2 under maybe, and was tied for the lead or maybe 1 ahead.
Yeah, I think you were 1
something.
ahead.
So 9 holes to play. I was in the lead, and to be honest, I was playing with Carter Jenkins, who
fair player.
He won that year, and that was his 3rd in a row. And I saw his game kind of heating up around the turn, and my 16-year-old self was shaking in my boots pretty good. Not that I wasn't confident that I could go play well on the back, but I had my suspicions that he had a little 32 or something in him, and I think it might have been like a 29 or a 30. Anyway, I learned a lot that week. I learned a lot of positive things, that I could, go post numbers in the mid-60s, and then I could go under par 4 rounds in a row. But I also learned from playing with a guy like Carter that you got to be able to go really low to actually go win events like that, and that I wasn't quite there yet. And I think the biggest thing that I still remember from that week was I felt like in the final round I just didn't putt the ball well enough. I still hit it really well, but I remember having a conversation with someone a couple days later, and I was like, it's someone who's a good player, and I asked him, what do you think about when it's the 4th round and putts are more important and you need to make them? I think that's almost exactly how I staged the question. He was like, well, what do you mean putts are more important?
Yeah, I think I'm going to know the answer to this one.
Yeah, it's round 4, but it's just another round. I mean, you're going to go play casually tomorrow. That's just another round. Why do you think the putts are more important? I was like, well, because, the tournament's on the line.
Putting too much emphasis on the situation rather than the outcome.
Yeah, and so he pretty much answered the question with, you're just making the putts into something bigger than they are. You're making the round into something bigger than it is, and that's probably why you didn't quite play as well as you would have liked, is you're just putting too much pressure on it. And so the following week was the Carolinas Junior. I had a good first round, not great second round, and then was kind of in that same position the final round, where I had like a couple shot lead or something going into the back 9, and I really tried to think about that, like, hey, it's just another 9 holes. Plus
you're the man though in June. Is it the difference?
Right. Yeah, it's a little bit easier. Yeah. It's definitely a little bit easier. I didn't have to shoot 30 to win.
Right.
But if you go shoot 38, you can lose.
Sure.
So I just tried to go out and execute shots, just play golf, not put any extra pressure on myself. And I remember playing a really good final 9, and so that 2-week stretch there is something that I still think about a lot, of just kind of staying super level-headed regardless of whether it's the first hole of a qualifying round, now pushing it to college golf, or the final hole of the national championship, maybe, of just trying to hit solid shots regardless of when you're playing, because that's the goal.
Yeah, that's awesome how we sort of draw upon those past experiences. And the good players tend to bank those, you know, and they use them for good rather than their detriment.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't you find that? Yeah.
And that's how you get guys that burn out, is that those instances end up becoming like scars and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And
scar tissue's too much, and then so that's just talks to your character and I think your golf IQ, which I was always admired even at a young age. I felt like you were just way ahead of the game in that respects. So I always say behind great junior golfers, there's always a great junior parent most of the time. And I always tell your dad every time I see him, I'm like, he's one of the all-time greats.
Yeah.
Your mom and dad. So talk about the importance they had in your career and how you were able to, I guess, just talk about the experience and obviously the support that they gave you through your career.
Yeah, no, I mean, they definitely did a great job. I mean, my mom is not a golfer and never will be a golfer, but it was just the classic loving mom that didn't care whether I shot 68 or 88. She was always going to give me a hug after and say she was proud of me. And whether that was because she really was proud of me or didn't know the difference between 68 or 88, I don't know. But at least in the way that it was manifested, she was great. And then my dad is a big golfer, and so we played a ton together. We still do try to play as much as possible, but he never put any extra pressure on me. He definitely set the bar pretty high. I mean, he told me, look, this is where I think you could end up getting to. I think you're pretty talented, but you have to work really hard for it and keep on going. And so I thought that was a really good way to approach it. But, you know, during tournaments or after tournaments, if it went well or if it didn't go well, he didn't try to put any sort of extra pressure on me. And so I thought that was great. And on course, honestly, he didn't even watch me that much, which I liked. I think a lot of parents are out there for every single shot, and they'll get frustrated or, you know, maybe get too excited if things are going well. And so the way that he tackled that was he'd just go to work, you know. Maybe he just didn't have time to watch me. But I liked that he pretty much just let me go do it on my own.
Yeah.
And I think that that's an important thing, is that a lot of kids you'll see, there's this sense that they're doing it for dad or they're doing it for mom, and if that's the case, then, you know, you should go do something different, because if you're not doing it for yourself, then you're not going to go very far, and even if you do, you're going to do it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I always admired he was very thorough, though. He always knew your game.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
I always try to get my junior golf parents to be the eyes and ears for the coach, because I can't go watch them play or I don't get to see what's going on. And he was always great at giving me feedback, but then he would step out of the way and he wouldn't try to influence my coaching with you. That was the big thing I loved about him.
Oh, and when I say do it for yourself or do it on your own, I don't mean that he was disconnected. He was sure. He was more into it than I was behind the scenes. But
I'm always amazed at how many he knows every college golfer and every junior player out there. He really studies the game and the landscape of college and high school golf.
And that almost makes it more impressive, as I'm sure there was a big part of him that wanted to be so involved because he certainly had the ability to. But I think he realized that the way for me to be the most successful was to just go out and kind of try to tackle the whole deal on my own.
Absolutely. All right, so one last question, and I'll let Austin have another one and we can wrap it up. But give advice. You know, we're speaking to the younger kids out there and the junior golfers. Give us a landscape. I'm sure you get the opportunity to be a mentor now, like people at your club and kids at your club. Yeah. What advice would you give to a young player that wants to play college golf?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, this is going to sound really intelligent, the lower you shoot, the better you're going to do. So do not be afraid. Start as soon as you think that you want to go play. I think a lot of people get wrapped up too early in, I want to try to play at this school or this type of school, or I want to play D1, and how can I gain an advantage on people? How can I get my face in front of coaches earlier, and how can I have someone help me out here or there? You can help yourself by just getting really good at golf. So just until you're 15 or 16 or 17 and that recruiting actually becomes a reality, just play. I mean, and when I say play, I mean actually play. I think you don't want to grind on your swing too early and all that stuff. Just learn how to play really well and figure out the other stuff later. But then this is going to kind of be a little counterintuitive to what I said, but I also do believe, and this is something I've picked up in college, that there's a lot more to golf than just purely hitting the ball. I mean, you look at these guys on tour and they work out like crazy. You know, they're super sticklers about their diets, and they do mental training. They do all of these things that all contribute to playing better golf. And at every lower tier of the game, you can gain big advantages on people in doing those things. So at the pro level, if you're working out, you're not gaining any advantage on anyone because everyone is. At the college level, everyone works out, but some people are into it, some people aren't really, so you can kind of gain an advantage there. At the junior golf level, most people just flat out don't. And so if you're going to be in better shape than the next guy, then that can help you out. Same thing could be said about mental training or something along those lines. You know, at the pro level, they're all doing it. You're not gaining on someone, but in junior golf, you are. And so I wouldn't be afraid once you realize that you want to get into golf and try to do it in college to really go all in on all the things that a pro golfer would do, you know, to maximize their game. And so, you know, the earlier that you can see yourself as being a really great player, treat yourself that way and, you know, go get it.
That's great advice. All right, so one of my fun questions that I always end with, and everybody that listens to the podcast knows what's coming, is if you had a billboard and you could put any message on it, metaphorically speaking, what would it be to get the message out to millions or billions of people, and why?
Somehow I've listened to like all your podcasts, and it didn't occur to me maybe I should think about this one. If I had a billboard, something that I kind of think about for myself day to day is it's just like a little mantra: opportunity, not obligation. So I think that's something on the golf course I think about a lot. Is if you're on a par 4, an easy par 4, and you hook it in a bunker and you're short-sighted, don't kick yourself and feel like, oh, well, now I'm going to make a bogey and I'm obligated to hit this stupid golf shot that I put myself in. Look at it as an opportunity to hit a great shot and save a par. And, you know, when you're in college and you have to go to class every day, don't look at it as an obligation. Look at it as an opportunity to go learn, you know. And whether or not I can actually ever embody that, I don't know, but at least I try to tell myself that. But,
you definitely do embody that. I'll just answer that one for you.
But, you know, I think that that's a really good way to tackle both golf and life, is just look at everything as an opportunity to go beat people and be better as a person rather than feel obligated to just kind of muck through your day, you know.
I love it. That's a great answer.
That's about as deep as I'm going to get.
That's pretty good for not being prepared. Well, I can't tell you how proud I am of you, and to be a very small part of that has been really fun for me to watch you grow, and you're going to do great things regardless of what direction you go from now on. Anything I haven't asked you that you want to cover?
I think we've covered quite a lot. Austin, I'm sure there's got to be something else.
I mean, I think you expect I'm going to say something funny or something to get you going, but really, like, to me, what's always been impressive about you is kind of like I've been giving Jason signs in my hands throughout that you've had this exceptional career that we've watched as me as kind of like an older, I guess, mentor figure, and Jason as a coach, that we've been very proud of and excited to watch you grow. And you sit here and are just entirely humble about the entire thing and don't want to be braggadocious at all. And I think that's the most impressive part to me, is that, you know, you're able to say, like, yeah, these are the things I've done, but it's not who I am. I'm much more than that. And the ability to not ever be afraid to, like, ask questions and grow, I think is something that you were doing that when I was 18 and you were 15 and still do it now. And I think that's what has gotten you to this point. And that's something that, you know, I've heard the two of you talk all about golf this entire time, but that is, I think, what has made you so successful. And that's all I would want to say is, you know. He's
always been that way. He always asks more questions during lessons than I probably ask of him.
Exactly.
Which is pretty cool.
And it's really impressive, and just, you probably don't know why, but if you know how and why you do that, share it with the listeners. It would help them out a lot. But if you don't, that's fine, because it's impressive, and all of us love seeing it.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head that I don't know why, actually.
And that's okay.
No, I mean, I'm just kind of a curious guy, I guess. And
There you go. That's a big word.
yeah.
Curious, right?
But no, yeah. I mean, there definitely is something to that, you anytime you see something that maybe you're not good at or that you'd like to be good at or be better at, figure out, okay, well, how can I get better? I kind of skipped over it when you asked earlier, but you mentioned how I played with some really good players this past week at NCAAs, like Matt Wolf and Cole Hammer. And, I mean, and this goes for anybody, whether it's a club player who's playing with someone better than you or a junior golfer who's playing with someone better than you. You really need to cherish an opportunity like that to figure out how you can compare yourself to someone who's better and then figure out how to get to that next level. I mean, that was something that I was exposed to every day this year, being with Brandon and Isaiah on my team, being with guys who are better than me, is just an opportunity to go figure out, okay, well, where am I, where are they, and how can I bridge that gap to some degree? And I think the only way to do that is to ask other people questions, but then also just constantly be asking yourself questions of what is it going to take for me to get to that next level. So it's really just, it's curiosity, and then it's also just constant self-assessment. And there's a difference between self-assessment and self-comparison, because that can be detrimental. But if you do it the right way and are constantly saying, okay, I want to be a better version of myself, here's someone that at least in one regard might be a little bit better version, what do I need to do to get there? I think certainly in golf, that's a good way, to go about it.
Do you, and this will be the last one, do you journal or do you write things down as far as that? So, because you've covered a lot right there we could dig into. Self-reflection, do you have anything, do you write it down? Do you put it in your phone? Do you keep files on your computer? I mean, is there any of that going on, or is it mostly just in your head?
Yeah, I do. I try to write some stuff down, sometimes in a notebook, sometimes just on my phone. But yeah, this might go deeper again.
It's okay.
But one of the guys, my unfortunate freshman year when I was injured that I was around, was Maverick McNeely. Who,
that's what made me think about that. I've heard his interviews, and that dude is so thorough.
And obviously he was an incredibly successful college and amateur golfer, and he's having a good year on the Web Tour, and it's not going to be long before you're seeing him out on the PGA Tour crushing it. But I mean, he takes it to a whole new level. He writes down every shot he ever hits. And so I would just be blatantly lying if I said I do even 1% of that. But one thing he did, he texted me right after we won NCAAs and, started with just some congratulations and things. But then he said, really think about, okay, why did today go well, both from an individual standpoint and a team standpoint, and just start with that word, why, and go write something down and figure out what it is that you can carry forward from this experience that's going to help you down the road. Because I guarantee you, unless you were just, totally dead out there and just blackout, that there was something that you did today that was probably pretty positive that you're going to want to have for the future. So I do try to take some things forward with me from good experiences, but then bad ones too. And I mean, I'm going to sound just so trite, but you can learn a lot more from your bad rounds than you can from your good rounds.
100% failures. Yep.
But I don't think it's coincidental that sometimes a bad round is followed with a really good one. And so I learned a lot in my third and fourth round playing with Matt Wolf and Cole Hammer and some of those guys. There's some things I did really well that I was proud of, and then there's some things that I just was absolutely horrendous at. And I think I played better in match play and towards the end of the tournament because of that. I was able to think about, okay, what did I not do well with these better players? What about my routine or my approach or, my nerves wasn't good? And then how can that be better next time I'm in a scenario like that? So, yeah, I do think that keeping a journal or just keeping a notes tab on your phone, something like that can be really valuable.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
So give the listeners your social media handle so they can reach out and say thank you or give you a social wave. I know you're not huge on social.
Yeah.
I know you got Twitter, right?
I have, I think Twitter, I think it's at Henry_Shimp maybe.
Totally vague, so nobody can find it.
Yeah, no, it's they're all pretty easy, but
Yeah.
it's just like the little character here or there.
Yeah.
Instagram, I think think I kept it very simple, at Henry Shimp.
I think it is, yeah.
No caps,
Yeah,
no
and I'll
spaces.
put it in the intro as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not crazy active, but also not completely inactive. So there's a little bit of stuff on there, here and there.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for taking the time, and again, congrats to all your success and then your future success.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. It's been fun.
What's up, everybody? Guru back here again with a couple of things before you go. First, big thank you to Henry for coming on the show and sharing some incredible perspective and knowledge that I know will help all of you juniors out there, and also coaches that are fortunate to work with players at this kind of level. It's just fun to be a part of that and to really watch juniors grow into young men and then achieve their goals like Henry did, winning the national championship with Stanford. So cool. You can also follow Henry on Instagram at Henry Shimp. Give him a social wave. Tell him thank you for sharing his information and his perspective. And also on Twitter at Henry_Shimp. And you can also follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Golf Guru TV, and would love to get a DM, chat with you, leave some comments, any questions that you have. Also, if you want to send an email to the show, you can send an email at golfgurushow@gmail.com, or like I said, hit me up on the DM. I'm loving all the DMs I'm getting. Love to talk to all you guys out there. Let me know how we're doing. Let me know how we can do better. Any questions that you have, send them in, and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. Just be patient, and I appreciate everybody listening. Music on the show is provided by Zach Mullet, aka Cutta Beats. And leave me an iTunes review. Leave me a rating. Leave me a 5-star rating. That'd be awesome. And let me know how I'm doing. That would be really cool. And as I leave you with the infamous Jim Rohn quote, study, practice, teach, and then pass it on. I'll talk to you next time. Thank you so much for listening.